Welcome to the Parsha Themes Shir. It's Parsha Bamidbar this week, which opens a whole new book of the Torah, also called Bamidbar. And it's dedicated for the Refuah Shalema of Moshe Shimon ben Leah Esther Chaya Halevi. So we start off. We are all a world to ourselves. We have no substitute. Parsha Bamidbar begins with Hashem's command to Moshe and Aaron to conduct a census of Bnei Israel. Rav Yisrael Meir Druk notes the juxtaposition between this section and the final verses of the previous parsha, Parshas V'chukoisai. The Torah there discusses the mitzvah of Ma'aser Behema, or animal tithes, which requires one to set aside 1/10 of his flocks and bring those animals as sacrifices. The individual must count his herds and mark every 10th animal as designated for Hashem. The Torah commands lo yimirenu, that one may not transfer the sacred status of a designated animal onto another one. If one does declare the transfer of a designated animal's kedusha or sanctity to another, then both animals are sacred. Rav Druk writes that the census, whereby each member of the nation was counted, serves to instruct that we cannot transfer our personal designation or our mission, the purpose for which we were brought into the world. Like the animal designated as Ma'aser Behema, our kedusha or holy status remains in place forever. We can never run away from our mission. The message of the census is that every person counts. Every person is uniquely important and needed. If a person fails to actualize his unique potential to fulfill his unique mission, there is nobody else who can take his place. None of us can be substituted with somebody else. The Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, famously introduces his Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just, by stating, the foundation of piety and the root of perfect service is for it to become clear and certain to a person what his duty is in his world. The most important thing, he says, is to determine chovoso ba'olomo, a person's obligation in his world. This is a profound teaching, that every person is a world unto himself. A person's upbringing, background, talents, skills, assets, liabilities, circumstances, all this combines to create his unique world within which he is to operate and fulfill his own duties. In the times of prophecy, a Navi or prophet would be able to tell a person precisely what his unique obligations were and his unique mission. Nowadays, we are to do this ourselves to the best of our limited ability. It might not always be so clear to us what our unique mission is, but we need to try to work it out. We need to recognize that we are brought here for a purpose and that our purpose differs from that of any other human being. We cannot transfer our obligation to somebody else. We need to do it ourselves. Now, lifting other spirits. So God formulates the command of the census with the words Se'u es rosh kol adas b'nei Yisrael lemishpachosom, which literally means lift the head of the entire congregation of Bnei Yisrael. Not coincidentally, the act of counting people is described as lifting the people. This is because the greatest way to lift somebody, to empower him, is to make him understand that he counts, that he's important, that he matters. Tragically, so many people today fall into depression because they feel invisible, that they do not matter. They imagine that if they would just disappear, nobody would notice and nobody would be impacted. One of the greatest things we can do for people is to show them that they matter, that they count, that they are important. We need to check up on people to show interest in them, to help them feel visible and noticed, thus reminding them of their value and importance. Now, defining people based on their shaah or hour. So Rashi, commenting on the first verse in the parsha, writes, because of Hashem's great love for Bnei Israel, he counts them often. People who love their money enjoy counting their money. People who take pride in some collection that they have enjoy counting the things they collect. Hashem has great love for Bnei Israel, and so he counts us frequently. That is why, Rashi writes, Hashem commanded Moshe to count Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, at this point, at the time the Mishkan was built, even though he had already counted them twice, firstly at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, leaving of Egypt, and after the sin of the golden calf. Rav Yechezkel of Kuzmir raises the question of how Rashi could say that Hashem counts Bnei Israel b'kol shaah, literally at every moment. What is the meaning of b'kol shaah? He answers this question based on the Mishnah's teaching in Pirkei Avos, the ethics of the fathers, Ein lecha adam she'ein lo shaah. There is no person who does not have their moment. Every person, no matter how often or how badly he has failed, has moments when he shines, when he achieves. Everyone has a moment of greatness, and the Mishnah refers to these moments with the word shaah. Rav Yechezkel thus explains Rashi's comment to mean that Hashem counts Bnei Israel based on their shaah, their great moments. He focuses not on their failures, but on their successes, on the times when they shine. People often judge their fellows specifically based on their worst moments. People sometimes end a relationship with a dear friend who had stood by their side and been loyal to them for years because on one occasion they failed to show up. Successful and fruitful business relationships are ended because a partner did one thing wrong. People leave a shul after many years of involvement because of one thing the rabbi did which they did not like. They choose the one mistake, the one bad shaah, and define the entire relationship based on that one occasion. Hashem, though, does just the opposite. He judges us based on the time when we shine, when we show our true colors, when we put forward our best selves. If we want Hashem to judge us favorably, to focus on our moments of greatness and to define us based on those moments, then we need to do the same for others. Instead of defining people based on their failures, let's define them based on their successes and on all the times when they got it right. Now, Torah createsus. The pasuk, the verse says, "Ve'ela told us Aaron and Moshe." This is the offspring of Aaron and Moshe. This verse gives the impression that the Torah is about to tell us about Moshe and Aaron's children. However, in the next verses, we read only about the children of Aaron, without any mention of Moshe's children. Rashi in the Gemara in Sanhedrin explains, they are called Moshe's offspring because he taught them Torah. This teaches that whoever teaches his fellow son Torah is considered as though he gave birth to him. Aaron's children were considered the children also of Moshe Rabbeinu because Moshe taught them, and a teacher is considered the student's parent. One can beget children biologically by actually producing children, but also in the broader sense by ensuring the continuity of the Jewish people by teaching or by promoting Jewish education. Rabbi Israel Meir Druk draws our attention to the fact that Moshe was clearly not the sole teacher of Aaron's sons. Undoubtedly, their primary teacher was their father Aaron. This shows us, he writes, that the principle established here by the Gemara, that a teacher is considered the student's parent, applies even if the teacher did not teach the student the bulk of his knowledge. This rule is not reserved for one's primary teacher from whom he gained the majority of his Torah knowledge. Even if somebody taught another person just one idea, one insight, one piece of information, he is considered as though he gave birth to that person. What this shows is that every piece of Torah that a person learns creates him anew. Every new bit of Torah knowledge and every new Torah insight transforms a person. We are considered the parents of those whom we've taught, even if we taught them just one idea, because every Torah idea changes something about a person and turns him into something new. This is what's so unique about Torah learning. By learning, we not only gain knowledge and understanding, but also create ourselves anew, turning ourselves into better and holier people. Now, mitzvos with derech eretz. So our Parsha says that the Levium, the Levites, were counted separately from the rest of the nation. And whereas the census of the other tribes included only those from the age of 20 and up, the Levium were counted already from infancy, from the age of 30 days. Rashi comments that Moshe did not know how he would be able to count the infants among the Levium. How, he asked, could he go into the tents of the Levium to check for babies? So Hashem told him to do what he could, and then Hashem would do the rest. Sure enough, Moshe walked around to all the Levium's tents, stopping by the entrance without going inside, and a heavenly voice, a bas kol, announced to him the number of people in the tent. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz noted that the verse says that Moshe counted the Levium ka'asher tzuva, as he was commanded, despite the fact that, seemingly, he did not actually fulfill God's command. God had commanded him to count the Levium, and Moshe merely took a walk, stopping by the entrances to the tents and waiting for a heavenly voice to give him a number. How then can Moshe be said to have complied with God's command? Rav Chaim answered that derech eretz, or righteous conduct, is so integral to Torah life that it was obvious to Moshe that Hashem's command could not possibly require him to violate the Levium's privacy by going into their tents. Mitzvos, by definition, require maintaining etiquette and respect for people. Therefore, if God commanded Moshe to count even the infants of the Levium, this necessarily meant only that he wait outside the tents to receive the information about the family inside. Moshe thus indeed complied fully with Hashem's command, because respecting the Levium's privacy and remaining outside was inherently part of the command itself. Now, staying fit and healthy the Jewish way, the pasuk of the verse says, "V'yu b'nei Reuven kol yotzei tzava," the tally of the tribe of Reuven, all who were fit to serve in the army. The Torah records the total number of adult males in each tribe. Miraculously, all those counted were fit to go to war. They were all strong, all able-bodied men. All the sick and crippled Jews were healed when the Torah was given, and thanks to the protective clouds of glory, the Jews remained healthy throughout their journey, despite the adverse conditions of the desert. We see from this that the Jewish people, by virtue of their connection to God, expressed through studying the Torah and fulfilling its commandments, were not bound by the laws of nature. Furthermore, their ability to override nature was self-evident, expressed not only in spiritual concerns, but in physical health and well-being as well. This holds as true today as it did when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. To the extent that we live our lives according to the dictates of the Torah, we too will be blessed with spiritual and physical health, despite any obstacles posed by the laws of nature. Now, guarding our inner sanctuary. The verse states, "Meneged sarviv la'oel moed yachanu." God told Moshe the Israelites must camp around the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. So God then instructed Moshe to organize the Jewish people into a specific army formation. The tabernacle was in the middle, surrounded by 3 tribes on each of its 4 sides. The people's encampment on all 4 sides of the tabernacle symbolized how they protected the holy edifice and the Torah that resided in its innermost sanctum, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Certainly, the Torah does not need our protection. On the contrary, the Torah and its commandments protect us. However, God chose to entrust us with the noble mission of protecting the Torah itself. Similarly, we must guard our personal inner sanctuary within our hearts and within our homes from all 4 sides, from cool spiritual indifference on the cold north, from hot lustful passions on the warm south, from self-gratification over brilliant accomplishments on the morning east, and from dark despair on the evening west. Now, the census. A census expresses 2 paradoxical truths. On the one hand, it implies that each individual is significant. On the other hand, a head count is the ultimate equalizer. Each member of the community, from the greatest to the lowliest, counts for no less and no more than 1. God repeatedly commands Moshe to count the Jewish people to emphasize both their individual worth, the fact that every single person's contribution is indispensable, as well as their inherent equality. While Hashem counts the entire Jewish people as one large group, he also counts each individual because he cares about each and every Jew. He values each one, he cherishes each one. No one is just a number. Every Jew has a special name because each one has a unique role to play in this world. Do not belittle any person because there is no one who does not have his time, it says in Pirkei Avos, in the Ethics of the Fathers. The Mishnah teaches that we should treat every person with respect because everyone has something to contribute to the world. Every person has his moment to shine. But at the same time, it is important for each individual to realize that standing alone diminishes one's effectiveness to accomplish. This could be what Hillel meant when he said, If I will not care for myself, then who will care for me? But by myself, what am I worth? So while every individual certainly has value, when he is part of a tzibur community, his value increases exponentially, because together with others he can achieve so much more. In Parsha Bamidbar, the Torah counts the Jewish people b'misbar shemos. It counts each shevet or tribe one by one to show how much HaShem cares about the shem, the special name of each and every individual. But then it gives the sum total, the misbar, the number of all the Bnei Yisrael, to demonstrate that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, because when all the individuals of Klal Yisrael join together, they can accomplish so much more as a community. This perhaps is one reason why Parshas Bamidbar is always read before Shavuos, to highlight the idea that Talmud Torah, learning Torah, is for every individual, not just for a select few. But in order for each individual to accomplish the most in his Torah learning, he should not study alone. Rather, he should learn together with others, says the Gemara in Brachos. Now we say at the end of the Shemona Esrei, V'sein chalkenu b'sorasecha. We ask that we be given our own special portion in Torah, but only by learning together with others will we maximize our accomplishments in Torah and achieve our full potential. Now there's nothing more beautiful than serving HaShem b'tznius. At the outset of their relationship, HaShem communicated with Moshe outdoors and in public, first at the burning bush and then later in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. However, the verse states that subsequently, V'yadaber HaShem el Moshe b'midbar Sinai ba'oel moed. HaShem spoke to Moshe in the desert of Sinai from within the Oel Moed, for the tent of meeting. The Midrash Rabbah comments that following the construction of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, HaShem only spoke to Moshe from within the Oel Moed, for HaShem typically prefers to operate discreetly and indoors, as it says, walk modestly with your God. And it is for this reason that HaShem is described in general as a God who conceals himself. That's in Yeshaya. A similar transition occurred in connection with the giving of the Torah. The Midrash Tanchuma claims that the first set of luchos or tablets were broken precisely because they arrived amidst great attention and fanfare, which leads the Midrash to conclude that there is nothing more beautiful than tznius or modesty. In order to protect the second set of luchos tablets from a similar fate, Moshe was instructed to fashion them while alone and in private. As the verse says, carve for yourself two tablets of stone like the first ones. The value of being removed from the public eye is further supported by the Gemara in Bava Metzia, which comments that blessings can only exist regarding objects that are concealed. Moreover, the Gemara in Sukkah asserts that even those events which are generally held in public, such as a wedding, funeral, or even teaching Torah, should nonetheless be conducted with the greatest degree of discretion possible. The expansive range and scope of these comments indicates that the imperative to conduct ourselves privately and with tznius, modesty, is not limited to our wardrobe choices or modes of attire, but rather encompasses all of our interactions and indeed defines our very way of life. This is underscored by the manner in which Balak praises the Jewish people, "How goodly are your tents, Yaakov," referring to the arrangement of their tents, which opened in opposite directions in order to prevent one from peering into the home of another. The Maharal writes that the meanings and significance of an object or event which is open to the public and exposed in plain sight is limited to that which can be observed and is on display. Conversely, an item which is hidden and concealed suggests that it possesses greater depth and therefore should not be judged superficially. This is comparable to the tip of an iceberg which protrudes above the water, but at the same time hints that its true girth and might resides beneath the surface. For this reason, when HaShem indicated that the Israelites should prepare for the next journey, the Levites were commanded to cover the furniture and utensils, and that they not go inside and witness the dismantling of the sanctuary themselves, lest they die. Rav Sternbuch explains that the pieces of the Mishkan were wrapped and concealed deliberately in order to convey to any potential spectators that the ultimate purpose of the Mishkan and its utensils were beyond their grasp and all human understanding. Given the general emphasis on tznius and privacy, it is not surprising that the holiest items and places within the Mishkan were guarded by numerous coverings and layers designed to protect its contents and restrict access. This notion is emphasized by the avodah or service of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, on Yom Kippur, which was performed entirely in solitude. As the verse states, nobody else shall be in the Ohel Moed until he comes out. Additionally, Moshe was commanded at Har Sinai to ascend the mountain by himself and to instruct the rest of the nation to remain behind, for nobody else shall come up with you and nobody else shall be seen anywhere on the mountain. That's the Torah in Shemos. The Degel Machane Ephraim derives from these instances that intense spiritual experiences can only materialize when one is secluded, removed from all societal limitations and expectations. However, if the quiet and understated nature which accompanied the second set of luchos is ideal, then why were the first set of luchos introduced with such pomp and circumstance in the first place? The Sfas Emes deduces that public performances are occasionally necessary in order to initially infuse an endeavor with a certain measure of excitement and enthusiasm, which can only be generated by a large and impressive gathering. But generally, from the perspective of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, the more something is concealed, the more valuable it is. And the more an activity or accomplishment is publicized, the less special it becomes, not the reverse. Now, guarding the ultimate treasure. A Torah-observant Jew is often referred to as a shomer Torah u mitzvos. The requirement to be shomer mitzvos is repeated several times throughout the Torah. What is the significance of being shomer, literally guarding the mitzvos, and why does this define the essence of a Torah way of life? So we are taught in Parsha Bamidbar about the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash, the guarding of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and later the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, that was performed by the Kohanim and the Leviim. According to many commentators on Maseches Tomid, this guarding was not to actually protect the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, but rather was to indicate the significance of what we are watching over. Similarly, Shmiras HaMitzvahs, guarding of the mitzvahs, is not merely performing mitzvahs, but rather a declaration of the supreme importance of mitzvahs in our lives. What does Shmiras HaMitzvahs, though, entail above and beyond the fulfillment of mitzvahs? The sages articulate several times the dual obligation of lishmor v'la'asos, to watch over and to perform the mitzvahs, wherein lishmor refers to learning and la'asos addresses actual fulfillment. Learning Torah is the ultimate expression of shmirah, of guarding. If one truly views the mitzvahs as the will of HaShem, then one will spend all his time and effort to understand them. As such, the constant dedication to Talmud Torah, learning Torah, is the greatest acknowledgement of the significance of the mitzvahs, and thus the ultimate expression of Shmiras HaMitzvahs. As we approach the Yom Tov of Shavuos, we rededicate ourselves to Shmiras HaTorah v'HaMitzvahs. It is through the vehicle of Talmud Torah, learning Torah, that we demonstrate the significance of Torah in our lives. May we merit on this Shavuos not only to receive the Torah, but also to hold it in our hands as befits the precious gift HaShem has bestowed upon us. Now, soldiers in HaShem's army, finally. Parshas Bamidbar describes the encampment of Am Yisrael, the children of Israel, V'chanu b'nei Yisrael ish al machaneu, each man at his camp and his banner according to their legions. The special roles of the Leviim and the Kohanim are emphasized. One who is not a Levi, who performs the service of a Levi, is liable to a heavenly imposed death penalty. Even a Levi who performs the service of a different Levi, such as one who watches instead of singing, is liable, it says the Gemara in Arachin. Now, indeed, the term tzava, or legion, indicates that each man is a soldier in Hashem's army. One who abandons his post, even if he assumes a different one, is subject to court-martial and punishment. By contrast, one who serves in the army properly is rewarded even if he performs the supporting role and does not serve on the front lines. That's Rashi in Bereshis. Like the chelek or portion of the one who went into battle, so is the chelek of the one who remained with the baggage. That's Shmuel, Aleph. May the Beis HaMikdash be rebuilt speedily in our days, and grant us our portion in your Torah, it says in Pirkei Avos, the Ethics of the Fathers. This phrase, which is recited after the Shemona Esrei, the silent Amida prayer, appears to be a non sequitur containing two seemingly unrelated requests. Perhaps the connection lies in the word chalkenu, our portion. We all realize that we have different roles in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple. So too we have different roles concerning Torah. Here too the army metaphor is apt. Those who are involved in the Milchama, the war of Torah, are soldiers on the front lines. Those in supporting and enabling roles are equally loyal servants and are entitled to equal reward. In fact, the sages teach that financial supporters of Torah receive reward equal to that of those who learn Torah. In the shade of wisdom, in the shade of money, it says in Koheles. One who supports a Talmid Chochem, a Torah student, has an equal share in the world to come, it says in Koheles Rabbah. Indeed, supporters of Torah precede those who learn Torah, perhaps indicating that they merit even greater reward. That's for Yikra Rabbah. A wealthy man who learns Torah but does not support others is not fulfilling his role in Hashem's army. Women are exempted from intensive Torah study so that they can better exercise their primary role in enabling their sons and husbands to learn Torah. The opening line of the Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just, demands that every person determine clearly and truthfully what is his duty in his world. Every person lives in a world of his own, with his own set of unique talents and circumstances. He must discharge his obligation in his world and not that of another. Hashem places everyone in a fierce battle in this world. If he wins a total victory, he will earn immense reward in Olam Haba, the world to come. It says in Mesilas Yesharim. Again, we find the metaphor of a soldier in battle who must properly fulfill his own unique role in Hashem's army. And that's the end of the Shir on Parsha Bamidbar. We'll be back, God willing, with the next Parsha, which is Nasoi, next week. And until then, have a great week. Shavua Tov and Shalom.